Hey, it's Radical Dan. I just want to make a video. I had some thoughts about surviving a natural disaster like this Hurricane Matthew. You would hope that people were just normally prepared. You know, they'd have food and water stored away and stuff like that. You know, for people that didn't have to leave their house, you know, if they could just hunker down and stay there, whatever. But when it gets down to the aftermath, and you don't have electricity, and you don't have water, and you don't have anything like that, I was just sitting there thinking that, you know, there's lots of things you can do. I mean, if you don't have a setup like this, you know, with a generator that runs on charcoal, which I think everybody should learn how to do that, because it's very, very simple. Like I said, you can make this in a small container, like one of those holiday tins, you know, that you get your popcorn in. You could use that as a gasifier, you know, as long as you follow the, you know, the rules about keeping the top of it airtight and, you know, burning the charcoal that you make. And of course the other you know, the other videos that I had about making the charcoal, it's not hard. You take a closed container and you fill it up with wood, and you poke a couple holes in it, you throw it into a fire, and you let it burn until it quits shooting a flame out of it. And then when you open it, it's charcoal. I mean, it's that easy. I mean, you can make charcoal, and charcoal lasts for a long time. You know, it doesn't soak up a lot of water, and I mean, it doesn't have a lot of it doesn't have any tars or anything like that in it, so it's a good fuel. And you could just store, you know, a bunch of it in like a 55-gallon drum or a big trash can. Go get you a plastic trash can or something like that, and store, you know, a bunch of charcoal in it. And then you can run, you know, a generator like this to produce electricity. Now of course I've got a little freezer fridge in my camper, which runs on, you know, propane or, you know, 12 volts, and, you know, I've had it running. So I told my wife, I said, if we ever had a, you know, power down situation, the first thing I would do is take all the food out of the freezer and put it in the camper fridge, and then I would plug that into, you know, the battery bank down here with the solar panels, you know, and the wind turbine, you know, whatever, charging that up. I mean, and then to supplement that, you know, I could run the generator right here. And then of course this generator, you know, it's 4,000 watts. I mean, it's not going to run the fridge in my house, and I'm not going to try to run the fridge in my house, because what I can do, I can consolidate, because I've got two smaller mini fridges. One of them's a little like a dormitory fridge, and one of them's like a half size. And I checked those out, and it's like one of them's 1.1 watts or 1.1 amps, and the other one's 1.35 amps. So I mean, still, with both of them together, you could run them on less than, you know, 400 watt inverter. And you can buy 400 watt inverters at AutoZone, I mean, when it comes down to it. And if nothing else, I mean, you could hook it up to the battery on your car. You know, go out, start your car, run it for a little bit, charge the battery up, and then run the inverter to, you know, run your little mini fridge. And that'll keep your food, you know, at least usable. I mean, there's many options you can do with that. You can build a little generator, you know, to hook up to one of those stationary bicycles or whatever, you know, to charge up your batteries. I mean, there's lots of things you can do to charge up, you know, get you 2 or 3 car batteries, hook up your little inverter, plug your mini fridge into it, and you can save your food, you know. And then I was thinking about water, and of course I'm going to put some little video clips in here. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it yet, but anyway, I've got little video clips of the two mini fridges. And then out in the shed I've got 2 pressure cookers that I just bought at Goodwill. You know, they were less than $5 a piece. You know, you can convert a pressure cooker. You can pop the little valve thing off the top of it, and you can pop your little nipple in there with a little copper tube. And it doesn't have to be a long copper tube, as long as it's long enough to reach to like a 5-gallon bucket of water, you know. And then you can screw on a rubber hose after that and run it through the water, and then put a hole in the bottom and fill that up. But it can be dirty water, it doesn't matter, whatever, because all you're doing with that is cooling it. So then you fill up your pressure cooker with your dirty water. Like if you go out and there's a puddle of water, you know, from the storm or whatever, you scoop up a bunch of water and you dump it in your pressure cooker. You throw that over a flame, or you throw that over your, you know, your little stove that you're running, you know, with your wood gas, or if you're building a campfire or whatever. And you basically just boil that water off. And what it does is it'll go up through the copper tube and down into the rubber hose, and it'll condense into, you know, distilled water. And the distilled water you can catch in the bottom of it. So you can take all your dirty water you got floating around. It doesn't matter if it's got oil in it. It doesn't matter if it's got, you know, dirt and leaves and bugs and whatever stuff in it. It doesn't matter, because when you distill it, you basically, you know, boil it off, turn it into a vapor, and then recondense it. So all the contaminants stay behind in your pressure cooker. So yeah, then you could do it that way, and then you could have, you know, a fresh supply of water. I mean, it might take you a little bit longer. It's not as convenient as turning on the tap, but I mean, at least it's, you know, I mean, if you don't have water, I mean, that's one way to do it. But yeah, I was just thinking about that. Thinking about ways that, hey man, thinking about ways that you could do stuff like that, you know, in the event of an emergency. And I know a lot of people are dealing with stuff like that right now, but you see it all the time. And hopefully you would hope that these people, you know, would have, you know, a little, at least, you know, a 3-day supply of food and water, you know, a little bit of backup stuff like that, you know, in case something happens. But if it's longer than that, you know, you have to look long term, and you can't rely on other people, you know, to supply your needs. So, I mean, you would hope that, you know, to put food away. And then, like I said, you know, for the electricity, if you had to have electricity, I mean, because a lot of people, they can their food, or they dehydrate their food, or they'll freeze dry their food, and that stuff's going to sit on the shelf for, you know, 20 years or whatever, and it's good. So when an emergency comes, they don't need the refrigerator. You know, they just bust open, you know, some food stores and some water, and then they're good to go. But a majority of people in, you know, civilized world, I guess, don't do that. So just looking at, you know, options for that kind of stuff. And my wife brought up the fact that you know, without the water, you know, without your toilet situation, and of course I've got a system set up myself. I've got a little bucket toilet in my camper, and I have on occasions had to use it when we had company at the house, you know, and you know how women are, you know, and they're in the bathroom and stuff, you know, for like a half an hour. But, you know, I just went out to the camper, used my little bucket deal, and come out, you know, put it in the little fucking methane digester, you know, and went about my business, you know. So it's not, I know if you're living in an apartment or something like that, you know, it's going to be a little different story. But you should stock up on some, you know, like sawdust or something like that. Get you a couple bags of sawdust, you know, for when something happens, and you can go take a crap in a bucket, you know, and throw some sawdust on it to keep the, you know, the smell out, and then like put it out in the garage or something until you can get rid of it, or until you can bury it, or until you can, you know, do something with it. But anything, you know, to make it more comfortable, you know, in a living condition, especially, you know, in a disaster. You know, stress is already high, so anything that you can do, you know, to make yourself more comfortable and not worry about, you know, your daily, you know, chores and tasks that you normally don't worry about. And these are things that you now worry about. So just a couple ideas I had. Like I said before, I hope everybody that's down there is safe, and, you know, we didn't get a lot of deaths from the storm, which shows the difference between a first world country and a third world, because Haiti got slammed. They're saying now it's like 800 people died. Of course, when you're on a little island like that in a big storm, I mean, where are you going to go? You know, you can't just evacuate. I mean, I'm sure everybody can't get on a boat and go, you know, to the United States or something like that, but it just shows the difference between, you know, civilized, you know, first world countries like the United States. We've had, what, I think 3 so far reported deaths, and then we're in Florida. So just everybody stay safe, and keep it in mind, man. Just start prepping, because you never know when you'll get a natural disaster. You never know when you get a flood, or a hurricane, or a snowstorm, or an earthquake, or, I mean, wherever you're at in the country. I mean, that's, you know, you think and look about what kind of disasters you, like here, you know, we occasionally get tornadoes, or we occasionally get a little bit of rain, you know, it floods out a little bit. It's nothing really drastic here. So, and you know, sometimes snow. But I know some places, you know, earthquake zones, or, you know, if you're around volcanoes, or if you're around, you know, like around the coast, you know, with hurricanes and stuff like that, you got to be prepared for the kind of disaster that comes to your area. And it's even like, you know, people talk about, you know, the shit hits the fan type, you know, prepper scenarios. It's not just for, you know, like civil unrest or stuff like that. It's for, you know, it's for natural disasters. You know, when something happens, It's like your grandparents, or our grandparents, or whatever, great grandparents. They were, they was prepared for stuff like this because their lifestyle reflected it. They canned their food, they grew their own food. They didn't have a lot of electricity, stuff like that. They did stuff themselves. So when something happened, it wasn't really that much of a stretch because they was already used to doing stuff. Nowadays, people don't know how to do things, so it kind of puts us at a disadvantage because a lot of people, we got a lot of smart people that work in, offices or, tech companies and stuff like that. But in the real world, these skills are not valuable at all. If you can't get food, or if you can't get shelter, if you can't get water, I mean, you're pretty much relying on somebody else, and that makes you dependent. So, I'm not saying anything against the people. I mean, there's a lot of smart people, like I said, they have a lot of skills, book skills, but, book skills only get you so far. When the shit hits the fan, you have to have real skills. So, you got to think about it, start preparing now for the next crisis, because there's always going to be a next crisis, and just the better prepared you are, the better you are, you're ready to survive the crisis. So like I said, I hope everybody's cool, everybody's healthy and safe, and digging out of the mess that they're in or whatever. So until next time, have a good one. Talk to you later.